Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. Extremely excited to be recording today here on the De'Aaron Fox potential of a trade. Will De'Aaron Fox at some point in time ask out of Sacramento? Will the Kings and Monte McNair feel pressured to ultimately trade their all-star caliber guard in De'Aaron Fox? This is a huge question right now, and a lot of it stems from some of the instability around De'Aaron Fox's future in the NBA. We'll get to that in just a second. If you guys do enjoy the consistent uploads here at Utility Sports, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. And now let's get into exactly why there's this insecurity perhaps between the Sacramento Kings and De'Aaron Fox multiple years after he was drafted in the top 5 in his own draft class. Now, De'Aaron Fox seems to be non-committal on his future with the Sacramento Kings going forward, specifically after being on Draymond Green's podcast where he had this to say about his future with the Kings.
For me, man, it has all to do with just the team, the organization. Where are we going? I want to make sure that we're in a position to try to win in the future, because that's ultimately what I want to do. Like, I know I make enough money regardless of where I play or what I do. Like, I'm gonna be fine, unless, God forbid, knock on wood, that you have a career in injury. But aside from that, like, I feel like I'm continuing to get better as a player every year. But for me, are we looking like we're continuing to get better year after year, and are we going to be able to compete at a high level? And that's all mine is. Like, if we can show that this year, like, you sign an extension now. If not, like, obviously I still have another year, but that's where my mindset is.
So with that in mind, I think it's very interesting the current situation in the NBA, specifically how right now there's potential rumors about Jimmy Butler on the move. Could LeBron James even ask out of Los Angeles? There are so many rumors, so much speculation around the NBA right now, and I wanted to specifically cover 4 potential trades for De'Aaron Fox. The first one here being with the San Antonio Spurs. I think as we progress further, the offers will get better and more enticing. Starting with this mock trade between San Antonio and Sacramento, the Spurs get a build-around point guard to pair with Stephon Castle, to pair with Victor Wembanyama, and as you heard from what De'Aaron Fox had to say on Draymond Green's podcast, he is looking for a situation to win, and to win a lot moving forward. And I think San Antonio is one of the destinations in the NBA that can almost guarantee that moving forward. You put an all-star caliber guard alongside the young talent there in San Antonio. We've even seen the benefit Chris Paul has had in today's era for the Spurs. You add in a talent like De'Aaron Fox, the downhill ability, the ability in transition, the shooting talent, which has been a real progression for him since his time at Kentucky. De'Aaron Fox is just a very talented player, and I think would turn the Spurs into a serious Western Conference playoff team for the foreseeable future as Victor Wembanyama continues to grow and blossom into his own right. And for the Kings here, what are you getting in return? Remember, the packages will improve as we go throughout this video, but the first package here features Keldon Johnson, $19 million salary. He's on a pretty team-friendly deal. Not a lot of salary committed to him moving forward. He is capable of scoring the basketball. Zach Collins making $16 million, one more year after this season, so it is a shorter controlled deal, and I think for Sacramento they would look to get out of that deal at some point in the near future. He is just simply in here for salary to get to De'Aaron Fox's $34 million salary mark. Malachi Branham is an upside swing here. Has not really panned out for San Antonio so far. Maybe playing in more Zoom-styled offenses next to Domantas Sabonis could unlock some of what we saw from Malachi Branham during his collegiate time before coming into the NBA draft. I was never a huge Malachi Branham fan. Unfortunately, he just has not really found his footing to be a consistent quality player in the NBA quite yet, but he is still young, so maybe this is an upside swing here for Sacramento if they do decide to, at some point in time, part ways with De'Aaron Fox. And then this is a quantity play in terms of the draft, and there are some quality assets in here as well. 4 first-round picks in this deal, and there is some significant quality in this first-round pick collection as well. Not only do you get the Spurs 2025 first-round pick, which projects right now to be at least a middle-of-the-road pick, somewhere between pick 10 and pick number 15, but you're also looking at getting Chicago's first round pick in 2025 that has a top 10 protection on it, but still could prove to be valuable. There are some backup protections for a couple of years as well. This is from the DeMar DeRozan trade, which sent DeRozan to Chicago, funny enough. Now, with DeRozan in Sacramento, they could perhaps be sitting on this pick too. Sacramento could be the 2027 first via Atlanta that is unprotected from the DeJounte Murray trade. That looks like a very valuable long-term asset depending on how the Hawks move forward. Obviously, they have been very mediocre for some time. This season, they've looked a little bit better, but who knows how much you can bank on that going into future seasons. And a 2028 swap option with the Boston Celtics. So 4 first-round picks, some real quality in this one as well, including that 2025 Spurs first, the Bulls first in 2025 with protections going into future drafts, the Hawks first-rounder in 2027, which projects to be perhaps very valuable as well. I know that's a valuable asset Spurs fans have not wanted to part ways with for a while. So it's a real collection of assets here. And perhaps some real value for Sacramento in terms of draft equity if they do move on from De'Aaron Fox. Now, you don't get quite the stash of young players in this one. This is a semi-lackluster deal for Sacramento, and I'm not even sure if the Kings ultimately do trade De'Aaron Fox anyway, especially since he has one more year on his contract. It's very possible Sacramento just tries to let this thing play out. But if Fox says, hey, look to trade me, this is the type of offer we could see San Antonio maybe put together, still prioritize their own long-term flexibility with their own draft picks. They could make more trades to kind of surround Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox going forward. It's an interesting starting point in this video, but I think an even better offer here stems from the Orlando Magic, a team that has battled against injuries this season with Paolo Banchero going down early. Franz Wagner carried the load for a while, then he got hurt. Now Jalen Suggs has stepped up. This Magic team is for real, and a lot of it is built on their defense. They have a tremendous team defense. Jamal Mosley is a tremendous head coach. And I think for the Magic specifically, if there's one thing we could point to as maybe a long-term concern for them, it would be the half-court scoring in the postseason specifically. And, you know, you can attribute that to a young team, a team that didn't have a lot of shooting last year. They struggled a bit in the first round, did go to 7 games ultimately, but lost in the first round of the playoffs last year. And how ready is this team this year to take that step forward? They did add some shooting. They're shooting the ball better from 3 this year on a bit higher volume. Their roster is just naturally better. They're progressing each and every year as well. They've added a lot of young players, but I think the sole playoff series we saw De'Aaron Fox playing for the Kings against the Golden State Warriors a few years ago gave us a real headliner of how good of a player he can be on that kind of stage. He was dominant in that series, even as Domantas Sabonis had struggles, Keegan Murray struggled, at times Kevin Huerter didn't play well in that series. De'Aaron Fox was a consistent problem, and one that the Warriors just really did not have an answer for a majority of that series. That series went to 7 games. Ultimately, the Kings did lose, but it was clearly not on the fault of De'Aaron Fox at all. He was tremendous in that series. And I think for Orlando here, you're getting a half-court option. You're getting a real scoring guard who is extremely quick, fits into your team identity pretty well, and with the infrastructure they have around him, this would probably be the best team De'Aaron Fox has ever played on in his NBA career. So that's a lot to build off of. And for Sacramento, I think this is a way more attractive offer than what you had just seen from San Antonio. Not only are you getting that quantity of draft picks again here, 4 first-round picks. Now, if you're a Magic fan, you might be saying, well, that's a lot. Look at the quality now. The quality of first-round picks aren't quite as great. First-round pick from Denver in 2025, not the best asset. 2025 first via Orlando. Again, the Magic are really good. That's not going to be a great draft asset. A 2026 swap in the next year's draft, which is, again, not a great asset. And then the 2027 first via Orlando. I think one of the big benefits here for the Magic, these picks aren't too far out, so you still have control of a majority of your own upcoming future. Think about the 2028, 2029, 2030, 2031 NBA drafts. You're not sending out way out future picks, keeping those in your back pocket for later trades if you need them, or if you want to use them, or just flat out draft and develop with those picks. And this is where the player return is a lot better for Sacramento, but I think it makes a lot of sense for Orlando. Looking at trading Anthony Black and Cole Anthony and Tristan Da Silva and Gary Harris, you are kind of pushing some of your younger chips and veteran pieces in for a significant upgrade. De'Aaron Fox, like I've said multiple times in this video, is an all-star caliber player, and that's something that Orlando getting into their backcourt would be just awesome for them. It would give them so much offensive dynamism long term. I think it would be such a good pairing. And for Sacramento, you're getting a collection of young players. Former 18th overall pick Tristan da Silva, former top 10 pick Anthony Black, who I really love. I think as a two-way guard, can really handle the basketball. I think he's way better in tight spaces than he's given credit for. I think he has a very solid handle, and with his positional size and ability to pass over the defense and also guard up and down the lineup, this is a type of guard that I think could long-term work very, very well with Domantas Sabonis. His screen navigation is pretty good. He can pick up full court if you ask him to. He's got great foot speed. I'm a huge believer in Anthony Black, and Magic fans, you guys know how excited I was when you drafted him. I do think ultimately, though, if he is going to be involved in a deal, trading him for an all-star caliber guard like De'Aaron Fox does make a lot of sense for both sides involved. Cole Anthony, Gary Harrison here for salary purposes, of course. Not the biggest pieces in the world for Sacramento to get back in this deal, but the money has to work in NBA trades. So it's an interesting mock trade here. Let's move into mock trade 3, though, and this is where it gets very juicy very quickly. 3 first-round picks go to Sacramento in this deal, including a huge salary in Fred VanVleet, a very good NBA player, one that either Sacramento could look to keep and implement into their own roster, or potentially retrade, see if you can get even more draft assets for him. Cam Whitmore is also in this deal, a very good young wing who has a ton of promise, a ton of upside potentially that Sacramento could unlock and live up to. I think one thing every time I watch the Kings, this team's just not super athletic, and I think a player like Cam Whitmore, who has really great downhill juice, a ton of athleticism, both in tight spaces around the rim functionally, and also just as a transition play finisher, he could fit really, really well alongside of Domantas Sabonis as a cutter, as a guy playing off of that zoom action. He's just very unique. Jock Landale has a unique contract as well, where he could essentially just be expiring salary in this kind of deal because he is non-guaranteed in future seasons. And for Houston, you're getting De'Aaron Fox. You're also taking Kevin Huerter in this deal. So a lot of money moving around for Sacramento. They get off of Huerter's contract in this, get a lot of upside and a lot of long-term potential, both via draft picks, one of them being a swap option with the Brooklyn Nets, which is pretty attractive, but also just flat out having Cam Whitmore, having Fred VanVleet as a tradable asset gives you more flexibility. And then for the Rockets, not only are you getting De'Aaron Fox, you're getting Kevin Huerter, who helps you stretch the floor a little bit more. You are losing some of that pull-up three-point shooting from Fred VanVleet. So I think getting a player like Kevin Huerter gives you a different kind of three-point shooting, and maybe it helps you grow Alperen Şengün's game as a dribble handoff user, someone who can flow into some of those actions with Huerter, who's had a lot of success historically, playing in that kind of setting, off the ball, moving quickly and getting into spots and shooting. I think this is a unique fit. Sacramento opens up a little bit more flexibility while still getting some young talent and draft equity, including impactful draft equity with that Brooklyn swap option in 2027. And the Rockets, they don't sacrifice some of their other trade options. They still have Jalen Green to potentially trade later, a ton of other first-round picks, including those Phoenix first-round picks. They could still theoretically go out and make a trade for Devin Booker. So this maintains the flexibility for Houston to build somewhat of a super team potentially, and it also gives Sacramento a very strong return immediately for De'Aaron Fox. My favorite trade, though, to talk about is mock trade number 4, and it is with the Golden State Warriors. And I do just have to say one thing here. De'Aaron Fox signs with the Curry brand. The Warriors are rumored to be interested in star players who can handle the basketball, play make off of a live dribble, and, well, guess what? You already saw it in this video. De'Aaron Fox goes on Draymond Green's podcast and talks about the lack of certainty in his future with the Sacramento Kings. A trade to Golden State makes all of the sense in the world in terms of the connections, the relationships. Remember, Mike Brown used to work with the Golden State Warriors. He would know how to utilize some of the players coming back here to Sacramento, including Andrew Wiggins, including Jonathan Kuminga, who is the high upside young player in this deal. Gary Payton II's in here to make the money work, as the Warriors cannot take back in excess of $330,000 salary, so they have to swap GP2 for Trey Lyles. But that helps replenish some of the Warriors' size that they are losing in this deal as well. Now, one thing I would say, Golden State's already a pretty small team. They get even smaller in this. But I do think De'Aaron Fox, his downhill dynamism, his shot-making upside around Steph Curry gives the Warriors a unique, different look than what they've had over the last 3 or 4 years. You kind of think about some of the positives that Jordan Poole at times would bring to Golden State. You're getting a way more consistent, way better version of that here in De'Aaron Fox as a player who's going to be able to really accentuate some of Steph Curry's strengths, some of Draymond Green's strengths. You think about the outletting, you think about the transition play. be extremely fun to watch. The Warriors would turn into a little bit more of a blur offense, which I would be very, very excited to see. You also get 3 first-round picks in this deal if you're Sacramento. So not only are you walking away with Wiggins and Kuminga, you're also getting 3 first-round picks, one in 2025, one in 2027, and that pick, which is 1 through 20 in 2030. Remember, they owe picks 21 through 30 technically to the Wizards from the Jordan Poole salary dump, funny enough. So this is an interesting trade. It would ultimately send De'Aaron Fox down to Golden State, but I think it would be a very good fit next to Steph Curry offensively. Again, the Warriors would be quite small, and this is pushing a few of their chips in, but I think for the Warriors specifically, if they're trying to contend, trying to compete, getting a star talent like De'Aaron Fox is definitely an interesting route to look into. I really hope you guys did enjoy the video. Now, do I actually think De'Aaron Fox will get traded? It's probably more likely to assume he would get traded in the offseason when he becomes somewhat of an expiring contract. That is going to be decided at a later date. I'm not sure if the Kings really know what's going to happen quite yet or not, but I do really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more, hit that noti bell. Don't forget, we're going to be having a lot more videos come out on the channel, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.